Hi guys, my name is Mihir Deo and you're listening to Just Baate.
Doors, I'm a fool for your love.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Just Baate. It's a Sunday, and again we have a podcast. We have a very lovely guest with us. It's funny, we haven't spoken to him that much yet, but we're already going with the assumption that he's a lovely person. And yeah, I'm your host Pratib, and I've got alongside me Ashwin, obviously. And before you introduce this guest, Ashwin, how was your morning? Early start for us, 11:30 a.m. How's it going?
Yeah, it's funny we say early start for us, although it's already 11:30. But unlike other episodes where I've complained, I've had a good start, dude. I slept pretty early, woke up quite late, so I think we should start scheduling our podcast quite early. But like Pratap said, we have a guest. Obviously, it's Sunday. So to give you guys a perspective on what he does, I'm just going to list out few things that he's done just to pinpoint one statement of his. So he's got fourth place at Ironman Oman, Goa State Senior Triathlon Champion, taken part in over 10 duathlons and never lost the podium. Deccan Cliffhanger 643 kilometers ultra cycling race recording time in India for the fastest finisher in team category. Multiple victories in mountain biking, road racing, and triathlons. And he also, according to his Instagram story, went for a morning run. The whole point of this is to just ask him. His Instagram bio says that he's trying to exercise. Now, Mihir, first of all, thank you so much for coming in. And what's that about, dude?
Happy to be here, man. Happy to be here. Uh, I so I I don't know why I put that caption, but there are a lot of people that say that I don't exercise enough. There are a lot of people that say that I'm doing way too much. So I'm just trying to fit in somewhere in the middle, I
Fair
think.
enough. I mean, that makes sense. Now, instead of asking you how you are and all that generic questions, I'm just going to ask you what's your
Right,
normal Sunday like? Because you went for a morning run today and you have a podcast
right.
recording now. But what's your normal Sunday like?
Normal Sunday always starts with the
Mm-hmm.
morning run, like you mentioned. So I am a coach for a running club where we train kids from the age of they start at around 7,
Mm-hmm.
8 years old, and then the age group goes up to adults also. There are parents also who train with us, but the main age group is between, I would say, around 10 to 15 years old, maybe 16
Mm-hmm.
years old. So all these kids, they wake up in the morning on a Sunday and they come out to run with us.
Right.
So I am a part of that group, and there's nothing better than
Yeah.
being in that community and running with them. It makes us all happy. So it's a group activity. So why
That's.
not? So that is what my Sunday morning looks
Mm-hmm.
like. If by chance there is no run in the morning on Sunday because of
Right.
weather conditions, or the kids have some tuitions, or because of
Mm-hmm.
any other reason they can't make it, I am a triathlete, right? So I have to focus on swimming also, I have to focus on cycling also. So if I don't go for my own run, then I either go for a swim or
Ah, right.
a cycle ride.
Now, before I give it to Pratib,
So
I'm just curious to know that do you have Sundays off? Like, are there any Sundays that you take off?
uh, there is I don't have a single complete off day in the week.
Right.
So all 7 days, there is some or the other form of exercise that is going on in my day.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned how you like, running in a group and everything, considering that what your event, what you do is mostly individual. So, before I move on to asking you how you got into cycling and everything, was there any team sport you used to play as a kid, or from the start were you inclined towards cycling and then you picked up from there?
Honestly, when I look back, I think of myself as a good for nothing kid because I wasn't good at studies. No, being completely frank here, I wasn't good at studies. I wasn't good at sports. I was just wasting time in school. But I have tried all different kinds of sports. You know that phase when you're a kid, when your parents put you in
Yeah.
different
Mm-hmm.
coaching
Right.
classes.
Yeah.
You just keep moving from one
Yeah.
sport to the other. So it's that typical different sport
Yeah.
changing thing for me. So I have tried badminton, table tennis, basketball. I used to play a lot of football, not at a very
Mm-hmm.
respectable level, I would say, just for fun. But cricket, obviously, all of us have played when we were kids. And yeah, but no, I wasn't really inclined towards any team sport or even an individual sport as a kid.
So then how
Okay.
Just the usual exercise, just to be a little active.
so
I
then
would
how
say.
did you get into cycling, and how did you think that was a field you like or enjoy?
So I was in an ICSE board for my school, and I'll get to the cycling part. So in ninth and tenth, at least in Maharashtra, in Pune, in ninth and tenth, it's tradition to just go for tuitions when you're in the ninth and tenth standard. It's just tradition.
Right. Yeah.
So obviously, I was put into a tuition for maths and science, the usual, and the tuition that I was going for was quite far away from my house. And when I was a kid, far away was 6 kilometers, and my parents couldn't drop me and pick me up all the time because they had a work life; they had to go to office.
Right.
So that's when I started cycling to tuition
Cycling.
and cycling back. So just cycling there every day and cycling back every day, just doing 6 kilometers, 12 kilometers every day, I unknowingly got my body ready for cycling. Just doing 6 kilometers daily. So it was a consistent lifestyle that I was following at the time. And just doing those 6 kilometers, I built like a base for myself
Right.
to what
Yeah.
I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So that is how I actually started liking cycling. And I used to travel by public transport also. I used to love taking the bus when I couldn't go on cycle because of rains, because of extreme cold maybe. But majority of the time I used to go on cycle. And after my 10th was over, after my boards were over, and when I got into college, typically the usual college kid goes for a two-wheeler, right? A scooter
Yeah.
for commuting.
Yeah.
But I had started liking cycling so much by that time that instead of a two-wheeler, I requested my parents to get me a better cycle because the cycle I was using when I was going for tuition was horrible. So I got a better cycle for myself. And that time it was a very big investment because I was just getting into it, and getting a fancy bike that time, which costed maybe 25,000-30,000 rupees, was quite a big amount.
Yeah.
True.
So
Yeah.
it was bought under the condition that I use it extremely regularly. Otherwise, my parents would have killed me. So that is how I started
Right.
getting more and more into cycling. And I started meeting these communities that ride on the weekends. And they go for longer rides, maybe 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers, what I started out with. And and then I realized that since I was doing those 12 kilometers of cycling every day for those 2 years in ninth and 10th, I was automatically better than the guys that were riding on the weekends, just by a
Right.
little margin,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
But I could visibly see that those rides were easier for me than it was for them. And
Makes sense, yeah.
if that was in my mind, I thought, why not just take part in a race just to see where I stand. And the first race that I took part in, I ended up getting the victory. Maybe beginner's luck. I don't know. So yeah, that is what boosted my confidence a little more, because winning is always it's a form of motivation, right? To keep going.
Actually.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's how I got into more and more races, and I started enjoying it more. And the more I got into races, the more I met people who were of my level or even much better than me, right?
Right.
And when you start riding with these people, when you start training with these people, you see improvement in yourself also. Not just on the bike. Yourself as a person, you learn different things from them that make you a better person, that make you more disciplined in life. Eating habits, sleeping habits, routine, following all that. So overall, it just helped.
Like, is winning? Are you competitive in nature? Do you look for victories, or are you someone who goes after the process?
I would say I am quite competitive. I mean, I don't know if I should be the judge for myself,
Fair enough.
but on an everyday basis, I would say I'm pretty competitive. And the process definitely looking. I look for that also, the process also, but in the end, it's about the winning.
Yeah.
About
Fair enough. But from cycling, from an individual sport, I mean, one sport that is cycling,
Right.
how did you get into running, swimming, duathlon, triathlon? How was that process like?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, when I was a kid, I used to just have a slightly active lifestyle, right? But my dad, he's always been a very, very influential part of my life when it comes to sports, because he's always been a sports person. He used to play water polo for at the national level and all.
Wow.
He used to play a lot of football. So when I was a kid, he used to take me with him. There is a local ground over here called the BM ground, where there is a 400-meter track, and he used to just take me with him to run over there. So whenever he used to run, I used to just tag along and run as much as I could with him. So again, unknowingly, I built a base over there for my running too.
Right.
So the things that I did when I was a kid, that's helping me now. And again, like I said, just to see where I stand in duathlon also, because all these sports, even triathlon, even duathlon, these sports are very new in India. People are not aware about them. It's a very new concept.
Right.
So I just wanted to see what a duathlon is, what all the hype is about, and if my body could, start cycling, get off the bike and start running immediately. That is what basically a duathlon is. So so I took part in a duathlon and ended up winning there also, luckily.
Oh my god! Now that can be beginner's luck.
I don't know.
Man.
maybe the competition over there was not enough. I can't really say.
Sure. Modest. So modest.
But yeah, that's how I started liking duathlon too. And I started realizing that I was better at duathlons than I was actually at just cycling.
Oh, right.
And that's how I started getting more and more into duathlons. And after that, the concept of triathlons came into the country. The trend of Ironman. I don't know if you've heard of Ironman. A lot of Ironman, the name started popping up a lot. Again, I wanted to see what all the hype was about, why it's so tough, maybe. And if I wanted to see where I stand if I do an Ironman. So again, decided to try Ironman, and it went pretty well. The process was good. Didn't win there.
No, but I like
I
how you started out in these competitions to try it out and to challenge yourself,
Right.
and how you came out on top. I mean, that's a fantastic story.
And it's great that you've just introduced the Ironman thing to us, because you went to Oman. That was your first Ironman competition, and again, it was also your first international trip, and like going out alone. So how was that experience like, and how did you manage? Because I was seeing another interview of yours, and you were talking about how you had to carry your equipment and everything for the first time. So what was that like, if you could just tell us?
So when I got into triathlons, when I decided to do a triathlon, I didn't know how to swim properly. So I had to start learning swimming from scratch, because in an Ironman, okay, so I'll tell you what an Ironman is first of all.
Yeah.
So Ironman is actually a brand. It's just a brand like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, right? So we keep saying Ironman as a race because that's the identity it has got now. But the brand is Ironman and the sport is triathlon. So it's actually an Ironman triathlon.
Right.
I didn't know that, because
Triathlon,
even before you came, Pratha was asking me this, and I told him that it's two separate events.
We were
It's
very
two different
confused.
things.
Right. So I don't know if you've heard of the CrossFit Games, which happen abroad. So that is actually a Reebok event. It's called the Reebok CrossFit Games. So this is like the Ironman
triathlon. Right.
So there are different brands. There is another brand called Challenge, where there are challenge triathlons. When it comes to triathlons, it's the most famous brand, and there are different distances which come under the Ironman category also.
Right.
Now, if you see a running race, there is a 100-meter race, there is an 800 meters, there is 10 kilometers, there is a full marathon, which is 42 kilometers. So in an Ironman triathlon, there is 3.9 kilometers of swimming, followed by 180 kilometers of cycling, followed by 42 kilometers of running, which is a full marathon. And depending on where you do it in the world, it's supposed to be done in under around 17 hours on an average.
Okay.
Now, my main focus is the Ironman 70.3 or the half Ironman.
Okay.
Now, that is like the name suggests, it's all the distances halved of an Ironman triathlon.
Right.
So it's 1.9 kilometers of swimming, 90 kilometers of cycling, and 21 kilometers of running. and this is to be done in under 8.5 or 8 hours, depending on where you do it in the world. So if you complete it under this time, then you are called an Ironman, and you get an Ironman medal and a certificate. So this is what I decided to do. I decided to do the Ironman 70.3. I didn't want to go for the full Ironman triathlon because honestly, I'm just not patient enough to race for so long. So an Ironman triathlon, if it's getting over in 5 or 6 hours, I'm fine with it. But racing for 13 hours, 15 hours continuously, I'm just not up for it. So now getting back to how I started out, I had to learn swimming first for
Right.
such a big distance, 1.9 kilometers of swimming, which was my goal. A stroke like breaststroke is not efficient for such a big distance. So freestyle is the most efficient stroke because you go with the flow of the water. In breaststroke, you are resisting the water.
Right.
So freestyle, I had to learn from scratch and I had to really train for it. But cycling, running, I have been doing for the past 6 to 7 years, right? So my body is a little accustomed to that routine now. But swimming, since I learned swimming in 2018 and my Ironman Oman was in 2019. So that
Right.
was a really short period of time for me to learn and actually get my body used to swimming. So naturally, swimming is my weakest discipline of the three. Still don't like swimming. I'm just horrible at it. After that, cycling I enjoy because cycling I've been doing the longest. I'm most comfortable with, and then running I'm pretty okay with. I'm still getting in the process of actually liking running and going out there and doing it every day. About the race experience, it was like you mentioned earlier. It was my first international trip, so I just didn't know what to expect. And it was my first Ironman triathlon too, so it was all very intimidating for me at the time.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had a coach that time who had some experience with Ironman triathlons. So he constantly helped me and suggested me कि हाँ ये ऐसे करना है, वो वैसे करना है. This is what you should carry. This is what you'll need in the race, etc., etc. We had to carry our own bikes with us. We had to carry our own triathlon suit. So it's basically a suit where you swim, cycle, and run all in that one suit. So you don't have to change. Yeah, food. We need to eat some food also during the race to keep going for 5-6 hours continuously. We need to have that energy, right? So in training also we need to test out what kind of food we eat first, because if you eat something new in the race, you don't know how your body is going to react, and that might lead to your downfall in the race. So basically a race is just a training day where you go extremely hard. You don't do anything new in a race. Whatever is planned in your race, you have to do it in training before. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful. And one thing that stands out for me about the Middle East personally is the road discipline and the cleanliness over there. Living in India, riding on the highways over here,
That's true.
I mean, I didn't want to come back from there because riding a bicycle there is just absolute bliss.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I can only imagine how treat it must be. I mean, clean road and just good surface, right?
Clean
Good,
roads,
clean
not
surface.
a single pothole on the road.
Right. Yeah.
Not a single pothole, no signals anywhere. We were staying in Muscat, which is the capital of Oman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The area where we were staying is quite fancy. It's like Connaught Place is pretty famous all over India, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
So
Correct.
it was like the fancy area, the posh area of Muscat, and you could see all types of fancy cars over there, fancy people, but no indiscipline anywhere at all. Absolute cleanliness everywhere. Not a single pothole. I didn't see a single red light. There were no signals at any intersection. Absolutely.
Right.
And still there were no people honking. I mean, this is like a different world for me. Even before race day, we just went out for a test ride on our cycles just to see if our cycles are working properly, because we have to dismantle those cycles in the flight. We have to take it in a bike box. We have to dismantle our cycles, and when we go there, we have to assemble them again and see if they're working properly. so that if
Right.
there are any changes to be made, we make them on that day, so that there are no problems on race days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So even when we went out for the test ride, they have a left-hand drive, right?
Right.
And we have
Yeah.
the right-hand drive. So
Yeah.
my group and I, my coach, my team, we all were just riding, and we weren't used to the left-hand drive thing.
Right.
So we were riding on the right side of the road, and we just completely forgot that we are in a completely different place. And we were riding just like that for about a kilometer or so. A kilometer is maybe about 3 to 4 minutes just on a test ride. And for 3 to 4 minutes, after those 3 4 minutes, when we just happened to look back, there was an entire train, a line of cars just behind us, and not a single one of them honked.
Wow.
So you can imagine how patient they are and how disciplined they are, that they are letting cyclists ride in their lane, and they are respecting us that much, that they're
Yeah.
not overtaking us from anywhere, or they're not honking. They're just waiting patiently.
Yeah.
And then we realized that
Wow.
we have to go to the left side of the road.
What an experience to have,
absolutely.
especially if it's your first foreign trip,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you, this is a mental aspect of things, because a lot of runners, so I work out in the gym, and
Right.
a lot of runners, both of us play cricket, runners, cyclists, and even swimmers, they get into this zone
Right,
of, it's almost like you're meditating.
right.
Now, what is that one, so in between cycling, running, and swimming, what is that one event that gets you into that zone? And how is it different from a race day? So how is that zone, like during training, different from the zone that you're in during a race day?
Honestly, I haven't felt that zone as such, because riding in Pune, there is so much. So if I have been anywhere close to that zone, it has to be in cycling, because that's what I'm most comfortable with, right?
Right.
But riding in Pune, there is so much traffic, there is so much chaos over here on the highways, that people are just cutting from left,
True,
right,
true.
center, everywhere.
So you're
So
always conscious
we
about
have to be absolutely alert at all times. So I haven't really been able to get in that zone as such, but I've been close to that zone, I would say. And this is different from race day, because on race day there are thousands of cyclists next to you. At least in an Ironman race, there are
Right.
so many people that there is someone constantly behind you, in front of you,
Right.
beside you.
Yeah.
So you don't really get to go in that zone. In fact, you tend to zone out. You tend to start thinking about something
Okay.
completely unrelated to your race. Like, for example,
Right.
even when
Oh,
I was in Oman, something about my college hit me. Something that I have to go home and submit my assignment. Something like that. Like, it's completely, and that happens to a lot of athletes, that they just zone out for
Right.
some time, and then you realize that, damn, I'm in a race, I have to focus.
Yeah.
So it's not a conscious effort to zone out, you just
Yeah,
zone
yeah,
out.
it happens a lot.
Oh, okay. Right.
But in training, we have rides that are, I would say, at 90% effort. If you are going at
Right.
100% on race day,
Okay.
you go for maybe 90% in training. So
Right.
that 90% is where
Right.
you're not all out also, but you're not going too easy also. It's
Yeah.
slightly above comfortable, which is called the threshold, where you can keep
Right.
going for a long time, but you're not going to burn out that easy also.
Right.
So
Makes
maybe
sense.
the threshold is the zone where you get closest to the meditation, like you said.
Talking about training and the mental aspect, now when you went to Oman, I'm assuming you were a lot younger, and now that you're preparing for whatever's coming next. So how would you say, or do you say that your training regime has changed in any way? And do you focus more on sort of trying to stay in a zone, or what's changed in your training?
So what I would say that going to Oman, like I mentioned, was my first race, right? So
Right.
I had no idea where I stood, what I had done wrong in training, what I had done right in training. It was all going to show on race day.
Right.
And as soon as that race was over, and my results were analyzed, and I saw the results for myself about how I performed in the race. So that gave me an insight into what I was doing wrong for the entire year. And
Right. Okay.
just that one race gave me a lot of knowledge, I would say, about what I should be changing in my training. And one thing that really stood out for me was that I was training hard when I was training for Oman. I wasn't training smart as such. I was just training hard. And training hard always leads to burning out on race day. Always. If you train hard, but you don't train smart enough, you're going to be overtraining yourself for a very long time. And overtraining is always bad news on race day. Because if you've been overtraining for the entire year and then you really push yourself to the limit on race day, there's going to be a point where you just burn and you're gone. But if you've trained smart, I would say even if you've undertrained a little bit, that is still better than overtraining, because you can still push your body, you can rise to the challenge.
True. Yeah.
But if you've overtrained, if you've gone beyond a point, it's not possible to come back to original form.
Makes sense.
So that was what really stood out for me, was that I had to start training smart more. I had to be more consistent with my training rather than just training hard. So consistency is what I would say was lacking when I went for Oman. And just the next year I did Ironman Dubai, which was around the same time, about exactly 1 year, I would say. And I performed much at Ironman Dubai, I would say.
Okay.
So I was much more consistent in my second year than the first year. The first year being Oman,
Okay.
second year being Dubai.
So Dubai.
So I reduced my mileage, I reduced my training hours as such, but my consistency had increased. The amount of days I was training had increased, but the hours I was training on those days had reduced.
Decrease.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That is smart. Yeah.
And that may be just that worked for me. Maybe that may not work for everyone else. This is very subjective. Everyone's bodies are different. So that is what worked for me. It may not work for you. It may not work for someone else.
And now, further talking about training, is there any superstitions that you've picked up over the years? Some rituals that you have to do or you don't feel ready?
Superstitions, not really, I would say, but I can't. So I'm a hardcore non-veg eater.
Okay.
Right.
So I cannot train without non-veg. If there is no non-veg in my schedule, I feel like I'm gonna die. I feel like I'm gonna just. So if I have to train hard, I have to eat non-veg, because personally I believe that's where I get all my main protein content, fat
Makes
content
sense,
from
yeah.
that I need.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And personally, for me, I don't think that veg food does it for me, especially the veg food that gets cooked in my house. So I lean towards non-veg when it comes to training. So that is the only superstition I may have, or the belief may have, that if I don't have non-veg, I may not be able to train as efficiently.
Right.
But like I said, that is just for me.
Yeah.
Millions of athletes out there who are vegetarian and who are vegan and who are performing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
So that's a personal belief.
I want to ask you, like you said, because you overworked at a point and there was a point where you felt burnt out. So
Right.
are there days, like even now, are there days on a race day, especially where you're not 100% mentally? Physically, you might be ready. Physically, you might be 100%.
Right.
But mentally, are there days when you're not 100%? How do you tackle that? Because you still have to go to the event. You still have to go through the race.
Right.
So how do you tackle that?
So now there haven't been any races for the past 1.5 years because of the COVID-19 situation. So I can't really tell you anything about the last 1.5 years. But I will tell you just about my Ironman Dubai. Like I mentioned, my Ironman Dubai was on the 7th of February last year, 2020. And after my race was over, I got a message just at the finish line. After the finish line was crossed and I got to my bag and I could see my phone and all, I read a message that the Indian Senior National Championships were happening on the 23rd of Feb, which is just about 2 weeks away after my Ironman.
Yeah. Right.
And I had no option, but because a national is something that you really need on your resume, so I couldn't afford to miss that event. So that is something where the mental aspect came into play, that maybe I may not be ready. I may not have recovered enough from Ironman Dubai to take part in an event as big as the nationals. So that is where the mental part comes into play, I feel. And maybe that mental part influences your physical recovery also. No?
Right.
It's a lot of it is placebo effect also. If you tell yourself you're mentally ready and you're physically ready, then maybe you actually are. You never know. So that is the example I could give you about myself. And when the nationals happened, I performed better than I had expected. I thought I would just be completely burnt out, because recovering from an Ironman takes quite some time, because you've been training for the entire year for that one specific day,
Right.
and on that one specific day you really push yourself to the limit. So it takes at least 2 to 3 weeks of proper full recovery to get back to 100%. But again, if I had to push myself to the limit in exactly 2 weeks, so that is a really short period of time to get yourself together.
But that's a turnaround, right? Like trying to think about how you can compete, and like you said, you competed better than you thought.
Right.
That's a great turnaround. Now we have 3 for couple of one word or a sentence questions, because before we have last few questions. But what's that one event in the world you would want to take part in?
Oh, definitely the Half Ironman World Championship.
Other than what you're doing right now,
Right.
what's that one profession in the world you'd want to master? Like any profession, you could be a singer, an actor, anything. What's that one profession you'd want to master?
So honestly, I'm doing triathlon just as a hobby. I'm not doing it as a profession. This is just a
Oh,
hobby
right.
for me. In fact, when I spoke to you about doing this interview, I told you that I had my exams going on. That's why we had to
Right.
push it a little
Yeah,
bit, right?
yeah.
So I actually finished my exams yesterday, and yesterday I completed my master's degree in
Masters.
electronics.
Congrats.
So
Congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, congrats.
So yesterday was my last exam, and I'm done with education for life now. Like,
Fantastic.
I couldn't wait to get it over with. So I assist my dad in his business already. So along with
Okay.
doing my masters, I was assisting my dad in his business, and so that is what I enjoy actually. So if there was any other profession as such that I would like to master, it would be this business itself, because it's turning out to be quite fruitful, I would say.
Wow, that's a surprise. Putting in so much effort for a hobby. My God, that's
More
great though.
more than a hobby, I would say passion. Hobby.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
nice
that's a
way
nice
to
way to
put
put
it.
it.
Yeah.
Now, what's your favorite kind of music to listen to? What gets you pumped up? Or if you had to go for a run and if you had to listen to music, what kind of music would that be?
I listen to music just at home, while doing house chores. I don't
Right.
really like to listen to music while training,
Mm-hmm.
because there are certain metrics we need to focus on, like heart rate, like power, during
Okay.
training.
Correct. Uh-huh.
And if you're listening to music while trying to focus on that, your mental zone tends to get hampered.
Great.
So honestly, personally, I don't prefer to listen to music. At home, I listen to rap. Rap is what
Okay.
I like
Nice.
for me.
Now, this might be a very weird question, but I was curious because. So, would you rather swim in Dead Sea, the Dead Sea,
Right.
or would you want to cycle along the streets of New York?
Cycle along the streets of New York any day.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's also because you enjoy cycling.
Right.
The last question in this segment. What's that one stereotype people get wrong about triathletes and just athletes in general? What's that one thing people don't understand?
Just about me, or just as triathletes or athletes in general?
You or athletes in general, anything. You or athletes.
Anything. Yeah.
There is so much I don't know where to start.
Then you. What about you? We'll stick to you then.
With me, people think I don't eat enough.
Of course, right. So what do you say to that? What do you say if people ask you to eat a lot, eat more? What's your reply?
If they tell me to eat more, I say, okay, I will. I tell them that I eat enough, but I work out and my metabolism is high,
Right.
so it just gets burnt
Yeah.
out. But if they don't believe me, then I challenge them to a meal.
Oh wow, nice. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
I usually tell them
That's
that
a
I
nice way
probably
to-
eat more than you. If you
Right.
don't
Right.
believe me,
Fair
try
enough.
me.
Right. A little bit about your master's degree. So could you tell us how you got into it, and like, was it something again that you wanted to do? Even growing up, you already were sort of clear that you wanted to do a master's in electronic science, or what was that like? So can you tell us?
After 12th, only
Right.
I had started liking my dad's business, which is in
Okay.
medical equipments.
Okay.
So that's where
Oh,
the
right,
electronics
right.
part comes into it.
Right.
Right.
So I started out working with my dad early, and we had the notion that if I started studying electronics, I would master the technical side of the business.
Yeah.
And since I had started working in the field with that early itself, I would get the sales side of it also. So I
Right.
would know the machines inside and out, and I would know the sales part also inside and out. So
Makes
the
sense.
entire
Yeah.
business is covered right there, right?
Right, yeah.
So after 12th, I decided to get into electronics solely for that reason. And it's not like I didn't enjoy electronics, but I'm not really inclined towards academics as such. I don't really like, because so much of the majority of my day is sports, so I don't really like academics as
Yeah.
such. But you need a degree,
You
right?
need a degree.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is why I decided to go for bachelor's in electronics. I could have gone for electrical engineering also, but that wouldn't have allowed me to do anything else other than engineering, because there are
Right.
so many
Yeah.
assignments and so many tasks that the college needs you to do, college hours, compulsory attendance. So
Right.
my passion would have gone down to zero, right? Which I didn't want to let go of. That is why I got into bachelor's of science, and I got into a good college which would support me in my sporting section also.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And that is how I completed my bachelor's. I didn't have to attend much of college. The teachers knew me. They follow me on Facebook. They follow me on Instagram. So they know what I'm up to. They know that
Right,
I'm
yeah.
not just bunking and goofing off somewhere. They know that I'm actually doing something better for myself. So
Right.
that is why they gave me a little bit of leeway to miss class and maybe study on my own, and then
That's really
appear for the
nice.
exams.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, so
always
the-
nice to get a little bit of leeway.
Yeah. So the teachers were really supportive in that way, and that's how I got my bachelor's. But my parents being Marathi, being Maharashtrian, I had to get a master's degree,
Master's.
which I didn't want to.
Masters.
Last two questions, last from my side. I just want to know how you feel about things, because now we know, I'm going to take example of cricketers. We know Rohit Sharma always performs well
Right.
in Kolkata, or Virat Kohli always performs well in Adelaide.
Right.
Now your field is mostly like the end result of what people see are all numbers.
Right.
When did you finish? What time did you finish? Do you enjoy familiarity? Because if you, like you said, you took part in Oman, you took part in Dubai.
Right.
Going back there, and if you did well before, like in the previous year, if I finished on the podium, does going back there give you confidence, or is it the numbers, only numbers that you look at?
So I'll give you example of Oman and Dubai both. Both are very different courses. The routes are very different. The scenery is very different.
Right.
Oman
Right.
is a place which has a lot of uphill, a lot of climbs, and that is why it was a little tough for us to get an idea of what the route is beforehand. But Dubai, it was a little easier for us because we know that Dubai is a desert and it's mostly flat route. So we didn't have any surprises hitting us as such. But Oman, there were a couple of huge climbs that we were not ready for, and like I said earlier, we need to simulate in training what we do on race day.
Right.
And that is the one thing that we did not expect. We did not simulate those two climbs that I'm talking about that really burnt out everyone from whoever went from India.
Right.
Nobody was expecting that. But going to Dubai, even Ironman, we choose where to go. When we register for a race, it's not like you have to
Right,
do
yeah.
one
Right.
race compulsory in this location. It's our choice.
Okay.
So the first choice was Oman, bad choice. Second choice, Dubai, very good choice, because we had an idea of the first race also what we did wrong there. We were not going to repeat the same mistakes in Dubai. And the route also, like I said, was a little easier. So that is why Dubai now, even though it was an easier route, I still feel like if I go back to Dubai now, I still have a better idea of the route now than I went for the first time, because I've already been there, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to numbers, personally, I'm a big believer in numbers rather than the position you finish in, because
Right.
you don't know how the competition is going to be in that specific location.
Right.
When I went to Oman, I finished 4th, but when I went to
Yeah.
Dubai, I finished 5th. So people asked me,
Right.
what happened in this 1 year? Why did you lose position? Why did you drop your place down?
Right.
But people don't see that I have improved my timing by 22
Timing.
minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm a
Oh,
big
wow.
believer in
That's a lot.
numbers. Yeah, and I still feel that I have so much more potential to do better over there, because even when I went for Dubai, I was facing a lot of personal issues at the time in my life, and my mindset just a month before the race was completely haywire, not focused on the race. That affected me on race day. But yeah, you learn from your mistakes, and if I go back to Dubai now, I'm sure I'm going to do much better than what I did in 2020.
But I just want to ask you one more thing. So before you start a race, do you have a particular time that you want to set, or are you just thinking about how do I go about this? So what are you thinking about while standing or while starting a race?
Depends on what kind of race it is. Since Oman was my first race, first Ironman 70.3, I had no idea what I was getting into.
Right.
So I just had to go out there and do the best I could and see where I stood. So there was a time target which my coach had given me at the time, but personally I felt I was not at that level at the time. It was just too ambitious, and I was nowhere even close to achieving that target. Even the time that I got on race day, the final result that I got is nowhere close to the target I was given by my coach. But when I went to Dubai, I had an idea of what I was doing. I had been to Oman, and after Oman, I had trained for an entire year with less mistakes, right? So I had an idea of where I was going to stand. So in my mind, at the start of Dubai, I had set a timing for myself between 4 hours 35 minutes and 4 hours 45 minutes. That was the time I had set for myself, and I ended up completing in 4 hours 44 minutes.
Okay.
So so like I said, I had a pretty good idea of where I stood in training, and I had set that target for myself accordingly. There's no point in setting a target that's too easy for yourself, because then you're not challenging yourself. Then like I mentioned earlier, there's no point setting a target which is too ambitious, because you're not going to achieve it. What's the point?
Interesting. And I think I have a question. This is the last question from my side, is also kind of on the similar lines only. Talking about maybe future goals. Are you someone who sort of plans out what they want to do in the future and then work towards it, or do you just take it with the flow? So how do you go about things?
Like when you asked me earlier which race do I want to take part in, it's the Ironman World Championship. So I know I have kept that as my target, because each time I have raced an Ironman, I have been pretty close to achieving that target. If not close, I've gotten closer to achieving that target.
Right.
So that is definitely what is the in the near future, that is the immediate goal. So that is what I'm training for right now. So I have planned my entire training year, the years to come, just for that race. So how much ever time it takes, I'm going to adapt and change my training accordingly just for that race, just to get there.
We genuinely hope you get there and do well and are happy with how you do. Mihir, thank you so much for your time, buddy. I think we took 45-50 minutes. Thank you so much for joining in. I think
happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for coming. A lot of the things I thought about triathletes and Ironman in general, I didn't know about. So, and a lot of learning in terms of how you are mentally prepared. I think it helped a lot of us. And all you guys listening, guys, we'll link his Instagram down in our description below. Like I always tell you, subscribe, like, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff. Sunday's podcast with guests like these. You guys listen to him, follow him. Even if you're not an athlete, even if you don't run, swim, or cycle, I mean, just following his page gives you a lot of motivation. Like his bio says, he tries to exercise. So it's great. I mean, if you don't work out and stuff, just read his bio. That's a motivation in itself. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yo, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Just Batein. We hope you enjoyed it and that it left you inspired. Thanks for all your support, and maybe you could support us just a little more by maybe going to our Instagram and Twitter and giving us a follow there. And also you can listen to us on all podcasting platforms, right from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts. Cheers.